Here are 5 mistakes people make when working with neural networks that steal your time. According to recent studies, 42% of people are dissatisfied with the results produced by neural networks. And that's pretty obvious. You've probably already encountered situations where it makes mistakes or spits out all sorts of nonsense. And give this video a like if you've experienced this yourself. Or it just blatantly lies, giving you the wrong links. Basically, it's mistake after mistake. And sometimes you start to wonder if it's even worth it at all. Is it worth spending, I don't know, half an hour of your time only to spend another 2 hours double checking and redoing everything after the neural network? The thing is, an astonishing 96% of users who regularly use neural networks tend to make the exact same mistakes, which unfortunately end up wasting a significant amount of their valuable time. And now we're going to break down what these mistakes are and how to avoid them. So give this video a like if you're not a bot or a neural network. I'm Pavel Lebedev. Let's get started. Mistake number 1 is having conversations with the neural network. This is what wastes the most time when interacting with a neural network. Why? Because you ask it a question, it gives you an answer, you revise it, and so on. This wastes time? Don't do it. You need to choose a different strategy to work with neural networks. You create a single prompt that actually does all of the work for you. This means you need to think through all the steps of the task in advance. Here's a life hack. In your prompt, write out the steps, do step 1, then step 2, then step 3. For example, we created a special legal bot that performs the following steps. In the first step, it analyzes the contract. In the second step, it checks where my interests were not taken into account. In the third step, it suggests new wording to address my interests. In addition to this prompt, you can also assign a specific and well-defined role to your GPT chat at each step of the process, right? For example, if you are creating content for your blog, then at the very first step, the neural network should think like a professional marketer and carefully outline the detailed profile of your target audience. Then, from the perspective of your target audience, it should thoughtfully suggest the most engaging and relevant topics. Next, as a copywriter, taking on the role of a copywriter, it should write a script for this video. Then, once again, from the perspective of the target audience, critically review everything you've done and rewrite it. And then, as a marketer, of course, complete everything and polish it to perfection. So, in one prompt, you can set an entire sequence of actions, a whole series of steps. As a result, one single prompt will do work that would usually take an hour or maybe even several hours to complete, and you won't have to sit at your computer the entire time going back and forth with this soulless machine. Give it a like if you found this helpful, and if you know any other useful life hacks for writing prompts, please share them below. Everyone has their own formulas, and I'd be really interested to see which formula you personally use to create prompts. Mistake number 2 is trusting artificial intelligence with calculations. A lot of people think I'll just upload a spreadsheet in Excel and it will check everything for me, do all these accounting summaries, calculate, analyze, and tell me what to do. No way. It won't do anything of the sort. Moreover, if we're talking specifically about ChatGPT, it will frequently pretend to do it and produce very convincing nonsense. In other words, it won't actually analyze these files. And a lot of people actually make mistakes here. There was even a precedent when lawyers in a US court got into serious trouble and were fired because ChatGPT generated non-existent citations in a defense document. As a result, the court said, "Are you guys out of your minds making up this nonsense?" And naturally, they were fired. Deloitte was fined by the Australian government nearly $500,000 for conducting a comprehensive study. In this study, there were non-existent references that ChatGPT had made up. What does this tell us? It shows that a neural network is designed to carefully analyze the overall picture. It can recognize and identify some average patterns. It works great with meanings, but not with precise calculations. So what should you do? Here's my answer. First, use NotebookLM instead of ChatGPT, because NotebookLM is a neural network that's like a mini Google. That is, you upload a huge amount of information there for analysis. You can upload from 50 to 300 documents, which is an enormous amount. After that, you say, all right, go ahead and figure out what we have, what relates to what, and so on. NotebookLM finds this information, organizes it, and presents it to you. It might not be the best at coming up with creative text, but it will definitely speed things up for you. Moreover, it makes far fewer mistakes, whereas ChatGPT makes mistakes in 47% of cases. Second example, you can use that same ChatGPT to analyze tables and write macros. This is a program that runs directly in Excel. And this algorithm goes step by step and essentially checks or works with the table. For example, you can write a macro that will go through all, say, 1,000 or 2,000 rows in your table, find key information based on specified parameters, highlight that row with a certain color, for instance, or simply copy that row and move it to another tab or another sheet. And that essentially is work, right? That is, you don't have to do it manually. You can write a program that will do it for you. The third way when you are working with precise data is, of course, well, you can also simply ask a program such as ChatGPT or a neural network to actually write a program for your calculations. And by the way, that will work as well. And another way is to use, for example, a service, if we're talking about spreadsheets, like GPT Fork, which allows you to send requests from Google Sheets or Excel directly to ChatGPT and load the information back into the cell. What do we get as a result? Yes, more accurate answers. And we won't have situations like this anymore. So give it a like if you found this useful. Let's move on. We figured this out. Now let's get serious. This isn't the first YouTube video you've watched about neural networks, how they work and all that, but for some reason you still haven't seen any results. And I'll tell you why. Because to get results, you need practice. It's not enough just to learn how to ride a bike, you actually have to get on and ride it. That's why I've put together a free course for you with 9 lessons called The Path to AI Neural Networks from A to Z, where over these 9 lessons you'll be able to implement neural networks yourself. The lessons are quite short, straight to the point, and by the end you'll understand which neural networks to work with, and you'll be able to practically create your own assistants and prompts that will perform specific tasks, helping you speed up your work. So follow the link below. The free link is available for a limited time, so take advantage of this opportunity while it's still active. Mistake number 3. And this is something that's not obvious at all. Most people don't even suspect it. Under no circumstances should you use the latest version of ChatGPT 3. Yes, at the time I'm recording this video, the latest version is 5.1. Maybe by the time you're watching, some other version has already been released. I strongly advise against using the latest version of ChatGPT 3, and I'll explain why in a moment. Along with the latest version, you should also avoid all the free neural networks that give you access for a limited time. All Telegram bots with ChatGPT 3 and so on are also strongly discouraged. Let me explain why. Because the most recent versions of ChatGPT 3 are not specifically designed to better solve your tasks, but rather to reduce the load on the company's servers. Because ChatGPT 3 is already used by 700 million users every week. That's almost 1 billion people. Of course, their servers are under a huge load and they're trying to reduce it. How do they do that? By having the algorithm, when it receives your request, first analyze it, and if it sees that the task can be completed with less computational power, that's exactly what it does. It downgrades your model. You think you're chatting with GPT-5? Not even close. Almost everyone is actually chatting with GPT 4.0, which was invented several years ago. That's how it is. And if it sees that the task is even simpler, it downgrades it to 40 mini or 40 nano. That's how it works. And the latest version of ChatGPT 5 sometimes actually communicates using the ChatGPT 3.5 model. That's the situation. I understand that for some of you this might sound like a lot of technical terms right now, but the main point here is this. The new models are primarily designed to optimize server load, not to perform your tasks better. And paradoxically, in some specific cases, ChatGPT 5 or ChatGPT 4.0 can actually work better and more stably than the more advanced versions. And you might be surprised, but many different services that are based on ChatGPT 3 for their responses, various bots and assistants, still continue to use the ChatGPT 4.0 model, which, as experience has shown, is already much more stable and reliable overall. On the other hand, there's the Claude neural network. They are constantly releasing and improving their models, and each time it gets better and better. It's quite possible, and Gemini is also actually pretty good. They keep making it better and better each time. And well, now we need to look at Grok and Perplexity. I can't really say here, but be careful and very cautious here. A new and cutting-edge model is not always necessarily the best one. The most important thing is to carefully measure how well it actually handles your specific task. And if you see that 2 models are performing, but one is worse and the other is better, it makes sense to switch to the more advanced one. So why shouldn't you use free neural networks? It's actually very simple, because you don't know what's under the hood with them. They say, we've rolled out ChatGPT 18 for you, but in reality it could actually be some old version of ChatGPT running behind the scenes, like 4.0 Nano or 4.0 Mini, just to optimize their own cost for using the model. After all, they also have to pay ChatGPT for using it. Well, that's basically it. And as for the list of all the neural networks I would recommend using, I'll leave a link below this video to a post in my Telegram community. And in the Telegram channel, you can find a complete list of all the neural networks, my recommendations, which ones to use for what specific purposes, which ones are actually good at the moment and genuinely worth using. Mistake number 4 is doing the work with the neural network manually. And here, many will say, what do you mean manually? How else? I mean, I already delegate everything to the neural network, it does everything for me. But that's not the case at all. The thing is, when you're doing something with a neural network, sitting at your computer typing, you're still spending your own time. That's not automation yet, it's just optimizing your process. Sure, things might go a little faster, but that's all there is to it. So what should you do? When you get a good result from ChatGPT or a neural network for the first time, that's the moment you should immediately create an AI assistant. Yes. For example, in ChatGPT, there's a GPTs feature where you can create your own assistant. The GPT Tunnel service also lets you create your own assistants. Claude has projects, Gemini has gems, and Perplexity has spaces. Basically, whenever you get a result, like when you find a really great prompt that can do an hour or even 2 hours of work in just one go, be sure to save it as a separate assistant. That way, the next time you need it, you won't have to remember the prompt, you can simply go back to it and use it again. Even better, don't just make an AI assistant, turn it into an AI agent. That is, a service that will work autonomously, not just within the GPT chat, but somewhere on an external platform. For example, in our course, we created an AI agent curator, and we called it Kuzma the Curator. What does it do? We fed it a knowledge base of all the answers from me and our curators in the course over the past year, all the most recent ones. And now it can answer users' questions. And so that users don't have to go somewhere like ChatGPT or into an LM notebook to interact with Kuzma. We made it as a Telegram bot, and it became an AI agent. So when we take it out of the neural network, say into Telegram or another platform, that's when it becomes an AI agent that works autonomously somewhere. And when our students ask questions to the curator in the chat, Kuzma is the first to answer. Moreover, it finds the answers that people have already given it before. And these answers turn out to be quite accurate. A similar example, we created a bot named Fedya, which parses and gathers news and updates about artificial intelligence on the internet, and uploads this information to our Telegram channel every day. As a result, I myself have started using my own Telegram channel to keep up with the latest news about neural networks. It's very convenient. So this is when we're not just using ChatGPT, but actually deploying it on external platforms. Of course, this greatly optimizes our workflow. Right now, we already have more than 10 neural employees working for us, who together save us over 500,000 rubles every month. If you're interested in joining a tour, I'll leave a link below to a masterclass tour where I show how these bots work, which ones we've implemented, what worked, and what didn't. And the fifth mistake, which a huge number of people make after getting really inspired by neural networks. And here, well, I also need to give a warning. Surely someone has already written in the comments, "Aha, Pavel, you're planning to implement neural networks for us, but they make mistakes, they don't work at all." And the fifth mistake that people often make is trusting neural networks so much that you completely forget they actually do make mistakes from time to time, because there is already a precedent for this happening. For example, there was a company that managed to automate about 90% of its processes in its business. It's actually an advertising agency, just to be specific. And as a result, of course, at first they saw an acceleration. They fired almost all their employees, but literally a few months later, they ran into a cash flow gap. Why? Because business and all processes in general are quite flexible and constantly changing. And even after you've created these AI agents and automated this process, you still need to fine-tune these processes, further train these bots, and monitor how everything is working. Who is going to do that? That's right, a human. And here it's important to understand that despite the fact that artificial intelligence really does simplify work and speed up our time, the responsibility for making decisions still rests with you. What do you think about this? Write your thoughts in the comments. And as a result of this video, let me know which of these 5 methods you found most useful. This was Pavel Lebedev with you. See you soon. Bye.